Hello everyone, and welcome to another Golden Podcast. Today we are doing episode 4, and I have a very special guest with me, someone who hasn't been on the channel for a long time. So, everyone say hello to Kihokai, and Kihokai, say hello to everyone, and do your plug, and tell everyone what you do, and why we should subscribe to your channel.
What's up guys, it's Kihokai1994 here, gonna talk to you guys about anything. You guessed it, Dragon Ball, and we are here on Golden Scouta's channel to talk about actually some stuff from back in the day, some very important stuff, but over on my channel you can definitely go and check out after this side story discussions, reviews, theories, gameplays, pretty much anything that has to do with Dragon Ball is being done over on that space. And with a lot of the newer stuff that's been happening in my life, we've been ramping up production, so there's a lot of videos to actually catch up on if you guys haven't seen me, so I definitely recommend going over there and checking that out. But I am excited to be back here on the channel. Thank you for finally letting me come and talk on the podcast, Golden Scouter, because I'm excited, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about is Dragon Ball, and I mean Dragon Ball as well. So I'm here, I'm ready, let's do this.
I agree, I'm ready, and thank you for coming on the channel as well. And guys, I'm going to be leaving the links to his channel in the description as well as his Twitter, but without further ado, let's just get on with the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai. So let's just start from the beginning. So after the hunt for the Dragon Balls arc, Goku goes to meet up with the Muten Roshi to go get the training that he promised him. So we kind of get introduced to this arc in a very comedic way where Goku is just like, Roshi, old man! And he's just like watching like this porno video, of course. Like, not really a porno video, but just girls like doing
his aerobics
stretches.
videos.
Yeah, doing stretches and aerobics. So, yeah, the first task that Goku has to do for the Muten Roshi in order to get this training is to go and find a girl to have around the island. And so, at this point, we kind of get these comedic scenes where Goku gets girls that might not be up to Roshi's or therefore anyone's expectations. Like, he gets like this really huge girl, which honestly I wonder how she even I honestly wonder how she even fit on the Kinto-un. I mean, that's left up to imagination. And then another one, a mermaid. But eventually, we do get introduced to Kuden.
The mermaid was smoking hot.
Yeah, I agree with that, though. But yeah, we get introduced to Kuden at this point. One of the mainstay characters of the series and the comic relief. And I actually like his character at the beginning, even though he is kind of smug and arrogant. I mean, I think he's a little bit more relatable to Goku at this point. What do you think, Kihokai, at this point, at just the beginning and all this?
Okay, so like, I don't know if I'd say comparable exactly. I think that Kuden fits as a good antagonist to Goku being the protagonist. And the one thing that I really like from this introduction and with this friendship, going over the next, 30 years of real time, seeing their friendship grow. A lot of people tend to forget that they were kind of enemies at first. I mean, especially through their training at first with, with Roshi. You can really see this just mean-spirited trying to get the upper hand kind of on Goku coming from Kuden himself. So, I mean, I like this. I really enjoy rewatching this with his introduction for the fact of, I mean, he's still funny. He's not a bad guy trying to kill or take over the world, but he wants to be the star pupil and he wants to be stronger than Goku. And until he realizes that he can't be stronger later in the arc, we get to see some really nice scenes and character moments involving Kuden.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially whenever you were saying about them whole being rivals and all that. I mean, we really see that whenever they do their training, like whenever Roshi throws that rock and how Kuden just pretty much blatantly and shamelessly just kind of schemes his way through that thing. Like, he tries to write that whole thing on another rock, and that doesn't work out, and then he tricks Goku into showing him the rock. And yeah, you kind of get that whole thing.
And then stealing the rock.
Yes. And also, like, the whole thing is, like, Kuden said that he wanted to get the training so that way he can impress girls. So there's also that whole thing where he doesn't have that whole pure-heartedness of Goku. Like, where Goku just wants to get stronger and be the best he can be. So, I mean, I enjoyed seeing them get stronger together. Like, at this point, like, even though you know that Goku has a lot more potential, and also just Goku is a lot stronger from the get-go, at the end of this thing, it really does feel like that they're kind of on an even playing field. But, I mean, just on their training itself, one of the big things I love about their training is just how it really gives us that big payoff moment to whenever they actually like show their powers over at the Tenkaichi Budokai. But I think I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself. I would probably say let's talk about the introduction of Lunch, and this is probably like the biggest role that she has in this whole thing. So yeah, I'll start off with you. What did you think about Lunch?
I love the dramatic tone that the anime is able to take when they actually introduce her character. I really like how it starts to seem like this kind of cowboys and Indians, old westy kind of feel. I know Toriyama likes that genre as well as, 80s action films and all that. But I got a very Western vibe, especially, the character design having cowboy hats and everything like that. But it just felt like there was going to be a standoff. And then when they introduce her character and it kind of just throws you for that loop, it's really interesting. And I love the curse that she has, quote unquote. I find it very enjoyable that any sneeze can be the end of somebody's time on Earth, and they get to go meet King Yama to decide their fate just because she got a little bit of pepper in the nose. So I mean I really do like her. I like the amount of time that she spends inside of the manga. I kind of wish that she wouldn't have been forgotten. But honestly, I wouldn't have wanted her to be a main staple of the Z Fighters, always there, always, contributing. But a little bit more Lunch isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, the whole thing is, I don't know, there's a few times where I found the whole transition to be funny, but I think it's a little bit more funny whenever she transitions from her kind of more loose cannon self to, like, her more sweet self, because then she's kind of more, like, confused, and I guess, like, to me, it's a little bit more comedic than just, like, everyone getting scared over and over that she might sneeze, and then it ends up being, like, a false alarm here and there, and then, I mean, of course, like, every single time that she does revert to the original Super Saiyan form, I feel like that, I don't know, it gets a little bit more old the more it happens. I think it worked fine the first couple of times, but I guess it kind of gets old. But, I mean, just on her introduction, it's kind of funny because Goku assaults a police officer, or police officers, and
yeah, 2 of them.
Yes, and yeah, so Goku should be on wanted posters at this time.
This is why I know Zamasu was right, man. It's just little acts like this that he did for the, majority of his life that just, the morals needed to be taken away.
Yeah, I guess Zamasu is right sometimes. Yeah, I do sympathize with that. But, okay, I guess now that I was saying that I moved a little bit ahead of ourselves, I guess, now we can talk about the whole training aspect of this thing. So, I love the whole training aspect, because it introduces us to the whole philosophy of the Muten Roshi, where he says, like, the whole classic eat well, rest well, play well. That's the whole philosophy of the Turtle Hermit training, and then just the whole thing of him driving in to Goku and Kuden that there's always someone stronger out there, so don't get arrogant. And it kind of showed with a lot of the training that he put them through, because a lot of them kind of seemed, I don't know, a lot of it didn't seem like it was like too mystical or anything like that. It just seemed like it was very hard, because like the whole thing of like delivering the milk and like the plowing the fields with your bare hands and kind of doing construction. I mean, that's kind of what I got from it. What about you?
I mean, what I like about it is people that want to try to compare this to later forms of the series, such as Z or, you know, Super, you really just can't. And the reason is the powers. We really only have 1 or 2 key attacks that are hardly ever used because they're very hard to, like, you know, master. It's taken 50 years for, you know, Master Roshi to actually master the Kamehameha, and it's real martial arts, and plowing the fields, tending the fields, construction work, milk delivery, basic, you know, basic calisthenics, and, you know, just stamina building is such a real thing that would be taking place with anybody who was a serious martial artist. And just getting down to those bare bones, grassroots kind of, you know, feelings with martial arts, it really brings this series more to life than it does to its predecessor of, you know, space and powers and transformations. And I don't know, it's just crazy. It's such a weird thing after you've seen the rest of the show, but this was the most intense thing we had seen to date, you know, just watching through. And some of the, getting ahead of ourselves, some of the fights are just crazy throughout this tournament. So I mean, I'm excited and ready to actually dive into the tournament if you're able and ready to hop in yourself.
Yeah, I'm definitely ready to hop into that. But I mean, just one thing that I want to jump into before we actually jump into that is the whole jump. Lots of jumping here, but the whole jump after Goku and Kuden remove those shells. And I would say that that's one of the first big payoff moments that we get to see from their training. I mean, I remember watching this show as a kid side by side with Dragon Ball Z, and actually kind of thinking that both shows were on par with one another. Obviously, I think differently. I think that Dragon Ball is the far superior product, but I don't know. There's that part that I distinctively remember still to this day, seeing that for the first time and thinking that this is a really good payoff moment to seeing their training, because that's one of the things I enjoy about training arcs, is that we get to actually see the characters go through this journey that they did to get this strength. And so whenever they get to display their abilities, you get to have that sense of accomplishment with them in a way, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or if you just want to jump into this whole tournament.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was on that long rant that I was going on. I really like just the bare bonesness of this training. It's very simple. And they didn't learn any actual fighting, which is one thing that Kuden's actually mad. He's like, you didn't teach us any moves. But while they're at the tournament, they realized they already knew everything they needed. They needed to be conditioned. And after their conditioning, they were actually able to accomplish feats that men can't even reach. And we're talking about 2 children. We're talking about a 13 and a 12-year-old. So it's just kind of you know, a testament to how much drive and ambition can get you in this world whenever you kind of put your mind to whatever you want.
Absolutely, and I do remember at the very beginning of this thing, whenever they were doing the whole sprinting contest, of like Roshi saying like, oh, you guys are still within human limits, like you guys need to try a little bit harder. But I mean, let's get into this whole tournament thing. So the preliminaries, everyone from the Dragon team is reintroduced in this series, like Yamcha, Bulma, Oolong, Puar, and it's great to see them all again. Even though like we kind of know like what Yamcha's fate is going to be in this tournament, and also like the other tournaments, but we're also again getting a couple videos ahead of ourselves.
Because he gets knocked out in the semifinals in pretty much every competition he goes to.
Yeah, exactly. But what I love about the preliminaries, and I know it's just basically like an ownage fest for everyone who's going to get into this thing, but I love the whole thing of like how Goku just taps that one big-ass guy on the leg, and it's like a shove, like a massive shove from like a big guy, and it's just like, wow. And Goku's just like, Kuden, don't use your full power against these guys, like, because we're too strong. And then again, like, we get to see that whole thing where Kuden, even though he is, like, terrified of these...
Deathly terrified. He is sweating to death, and he can't even, like, really form a fist at first.
Yeah, he is terrified of these guys who used to bully him, and they're taunting him like crazy. And one kick, and he, like, sends them through a wall. He sends one of the guys through the wall. And it's such a great payoff moment, especially to anyone who could relate to the whole bullying situation to any level.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's kind of one of those tropes that comes out of a story that kind of hits deep, just like other things in Dragon Ball. A lot of the experiences these characters have are actually tied to real life situations that most people go through or most people can relate to. And that's another reason why I think that Dragon Ball sticks with so many people for as long as it does.
Yes, I mean, a lot of it is the hero's journey. So, I mean, I totally understand that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love this show so much. But, yeah, I mean, let's kind of go into the whole matchups, because, I mean, the preliminaries are a cakewalk for everyone who goes through them, and in a way, all the first matches of the tournament are a cakewalk for all the people who win them. I mean, whenever it really comes down to it, because, like, one opponent is clearly outmatched in all of these matches. I mean, once you kind of get past their gimmicks, I think that that's, like, whenever, like, the person just kind of comes through in a way. But, I mean, let's just kind of start with it. So, Tyrion versus Kuden. the worst matchup in this entire thing. And I don't know, I'm sure there are people out there who like this match and kind of think it's funny in a way, but I don't like gross out humor in the slightest, so yeah, I don't know any point in my life where I actually like this matchup. I mean, in the anime or manga, as a kid or an adult, this fight has just always been straight up unpleasant to me. What about you?
It's not the gross out humor or when we get to it, how the KO happens and all of that. The thing that really upsets me is how much they drive how bad he smells. Even with Kuden's character, when literally 25 minutes after he's introduced, 30 minutes after he's introduced, they're like, hey, Kuden, you can't smell anything because you don't have a nose. But he's been freaking out the whole time. I think it would have been funnier if he never smelled it. Like, if that's what it would have been, him never smelling it, but then he can't figure out how to take the guy out because maybe, obviously, like I said, he can't smell, but maybe just the thought of touching him is what, you know, is psychologically getting to him, and that's why he ends up farting in his face. That would be funnier, I feel. I don't like that they drove the point home of him smelling bad, and Kuden was in on the, man, he smells terrible. I don't understand how people can, like, deal with this. So that's my only real problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I get the whole gag behind it, but I don't know. I've just never gotten behind it, like, almost on any level. I mean, I guess the whole, like, oh, you don't have a nose thing is kind of funny, but to me, it's not nearly enough to save this fight. But, enough about that.
I'm just happy that he didn't get knocked out. That Kuden didn't get knocked out.
Me too.
In the first round. That would have been really upsetting.
That would have been pretty bad. That would have been like Piccolo getting knocked out by the bug level of bad. But, enough about that. Jackie Chun versus Yamcha. So this is the first time in the series where Yamcha is just like, I'm not a walking, talking encyclopedia of the dragon world. And it's kind of amusing in that sense, but I don't know. Like, at this time, and just like on my first viewing of this ever, I never really, like, thought that Yamcha was going to be, like, the guy who loses every single first round of the tournament or becomes a scapegoat to show how strong the newest villain is. So, I don't know. To me, it's just, I accept it for what it is, because, I mean, of course, Jackie Chun is going to win against whoever he's going to fight against, because it's kind of obvious that this thing is kind of setting up for Jackie Chun versus Goku. But I don't know. Like, I like it for what it is. I mean, we get to see the Fist of the Wolf Fang, or Wolf Fang Fist. It's kind of cool, but, I mean, Yamcha does lose to a Ki, basically.
I'm the most happy that this fight really got to start showing us the real capabilities that Master Roshi has. I mean, we've seen the Kamehameha, we've seen him go buff, but this really showed his fighting senses, because from here, we've really just seen this lovable old pervy guy that, you know, knows how to fight, but is definitely more interested in talking to beautiful women instead of, you know, chalking up on his skills. And it's most likely because he's such a master. It's nice to see that him relaxing did not create any rust in his moves, and that he's still definitely at the top of his game.
Yeah, I get that, because this whole thing, in my opinion, starts the whole trope of, like, the cycle of, like, oh, like, the last antagonist of the last arc is now taken out by the new antagonist of this arc. Even though I wouldn't really count Jackie Chun as an antagonist, per se, but I would just say, I don't know. It's pretty interesting, in my opinion, just, like, how Roshi just ends up being a lot stronger than what we suspect, because I remember, like, whenever Goku moved that massive boulder, like, Roshi's eyes just, like, sunk into his sockets. So, at that point, and also whenever he was saying, like, oh, I don't think there's any more we can really teach, or I don't think that there's any more than I can teach you right now, since you guys are so strong, it did really show us that Roshi / Jackie Chun is a lot more than meets the eye, and just kind of all that good stuff.
Well, especially with his speed, since Yamcha didn't even know how he got knocked out. I mean, it's just crazy speed.
Yep. And then that's whenever Detective Yamcha starts, whenever he's just like, I wonder if Jackie Chun could be the Muten Roshi. And even though it's so obvious, and I don't know how anyone could not know, it's kind of like,
you know, he's gone the whole time from all of his friends.
Yeah.
There's this guy that kind of looks like him but only has hair.
Yeah.
Awesome fighter. It's the only other, like, 300-year-old guy that you know.
Right.
Yeah, I would assume it's the same person. He keeps slipping up. He keeps slipping up and saying, that's my move, or that's something I do. Yeah, we know, because you're Roshi.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like how nobody recognizes Superman or Sailor Moon, so, yeah. But, I mean, moving on to the next fight. Namu versus Ranfan. So, I mean, this fight doesn't really have too much to it, besides, like, oh, Ranfan is a little bit stronger than what she's cut out to be, because, obviously, like, her punches and kicks can make Namu double over in pain, but obviously Namu is able to get the upper hand. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about this fight.
I mean, it's what, half an episode, full episode? It's
not much.
It's an okay episode. Or, I mean, it's an okay fight. It's interesting to see, you know, that Nam doesn't want to touch a female, but I mean, he still gets the upper hand and he wins. It's interesting. I kind of wish that they would have had the female maybe move on to the next stage as well, so we could kind of see how maybe Goku or Kuden would have to feel about, you know, facing a female as well. But the fight later on with Namu and Goku is actually a lot more interesting, and I feel gives Goku a lot more, you know, in a training aspect of this fight from Namu and Goku that he probably wouldn't have got with Ranfan, is how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been more interesting if it was Kuden versus Ranfan, just because Goku still has to do the whole pat thing to tell people's gender. So,
yeah, because he's terrible.
Yeah, he's a woods boy hick, so he doesn't know male from female still.
At 12 years old.
Gosh. Yep. But, I would say that we could move on to the next fight. Goku versus a very kind of similar name to Jiren. Goku versus Girn. So, I mean, Girn doesn't really have too much to him, aside from his whole, like, cheap shots. Because he basically has that whole thing of, like, hey, what's this? And he just, like, punches Goku in the face. Doesn't really do anything to him. So he basically uses the bungee gum, which has the properties of both bungee and gum, or however that meme goes. But I don't know, it's just there's only one thing that kind of bothers me about that fight, and the whole thing is the rule breaking with Goku landing on Kinto-un. And so, I mean, as resourceful as that is, I mean, I can't overlook the fact that, like, hey, that's a rule break. Goku should have been disqualified.
I like that they do clarifications. That was nice to not, just take out our main hero. I also like that there was a conflict before they went on to the arena and fought. So it actually was able to drive and build a little bit of more of a sense of panic whenever they were fighting, and Goku was in his sticky bind. But out of all of the fights, I would put it in one of the better of them, but most definitely not the best. Like what you were saying, the cheap shots and everything were kind of annoying after a little bit of a point. And especially, I mean, it's a trope that kind of continues on, but people that keep trying to have the announcer count to 10 when he won't do it immediately. So a little bit of rule breaking from the announcer, it seems, as well, when you're talking about rule breaking.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And then another thing that comes from total left field is the whole thing where Goku's tail grows back, and then we find out that whenever he has his tail, he's somehow stronger. So, I don't know, it's just something that's always been weird to me, even to this day, that Goku is stronger with his tail. I don't know, it's just something that doesn't really make too much sense to me.
Well, I mean, I'm fine with stronger from the tail. I mean, that especially goes with being a Saiyan later on in the series. But it just popping back mid-fight and everything, like, that's the thing that's just weird and doesn't really hold well with me. I know that sometimes you have to have cop-outs, but that one's a little bit too convenient.
It is a little bit convenient, and I guess, like, it makes a little bit of sense because the fight in and of itself is full of a lot of fake-outs. So I guess, like, the whole thing of, like, that you thought that Goku was knocked out again was kind of another fake-out only for his tail to be grown back. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make too much sense, but I guess it kind of fits the theme of the fight, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the next one we can move on to, actually before we move on, I mean, I just like how Goku is just like, let me break out of this thing. He's like, "Boah!" And then he's just like, I'm ready to dish you out. And he's just like, oh no, I surrender. White flag. Classic thing. I do have to say that's probably one of the better moments of that fight, just because I thought it was pretty funny, in my opinion, even to this day.
I also agree. Especially, it's something that keeps happening because a lot of people, especially through like the qualifications of the tournament, a lot of people kept surrendering mid-fight when they saw the power of these kids. And it's really funny. It's really interesting to see these big dudes and creatures like giving up because of this 12 and 13-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, again, like another payoff moment to their training. I mean, especially since Goku got a guy who looked like Bruce Lee to surrender, but yeah, he's facing Jackie Chun. He's facing Jackie Chun in the tournament. Pun on Jackie Chan.
And Bruce Lee.
Yeah. I love that so much, though. Like, those are some small details that a lot of people overlook, but those are just some things that really amuse me, again, about this whole tournament.
I mean, Toriyama's obsession with all things, Chinese and just from the West are just so apparent when you know about them. and it makes you connect more towards the books, especially me personally, and I know you being a Westerner. It makes it connect a little bit more with you and give you a little bit of a sense of enjoyment from reading the book or watching the anime multiple times and kind of picking up on those little things every time you see them.
I totally agree with that. But let's move on to Jackie Chun versus Kuden. So, with this fight, it's classic shonen goodness. Like, I think that even though we knew that Kuden was going to lose, and there were actually like 2 moments during that fight where we were just like, wow, like Kuden is actually putting up a really good fight against Jackie Chun. I mean, before Jackie Chun does that whole cross chop move, he put up a really good fight, and I came out from that fight being like, even though Kuden was defeated, like, I thought that he put up a really good fight. I mean, I probably said it like 10 times now, but driving that home.
I would say in this whole little, collection of episodes that are the fights, I would say that this is probably my second favorite fight of this tournament. The first being the final, but I would say that this is my second favorite. And just the intense awareness that they show as a fighter throughout this, especially when the announcer's like, you guys are moving too fast, can you re-explain?
Oh, I love that so much. I love that so much where they're just like, oh, and we went like this, and then the announcer picks up Kuden, and then he picks up Roshi, and it's like, oh, in this split second, all this happened, and it's just one of those classic moments in Dragon Ball where it's just like, yeah, these characters are moving way too fast for the human eye.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that we definitely see and feel later on, with Frieza's 5 minutes and everything like that. Just that these fights happen in milliseconds, but it's something that you don't get later on in the series. Yes, the show is always a comedy, but it is more gag comedy in Dragon Ball, and that's definitely a very gaggy, sarcastic kind of joke that works just really well because it's hilarious. Not only are they so aware that they can move this fast, they remember everything that just happened to them. Going back to in midair, they're deflecting spit from each other and arguing about a game of rock, paper, scissors. I mean, it's intense and it's classic Dragon Ball. And it's moments like these why I tell people they need to go back and rewatch and reread the original Dragon Ball portion. Obviously, in Japan, the whole manga is called Dragon Ball. There is no such thing as Z, but the childhood portion of Goku's story is definitely always worth going back and checking out.
Yes, and then this whole fight ends off on kind of a funny gag before Kuden gets knocked out. Because I remember, he just throws panties on the floor, and Jackie Chun's just like, oh my god, I can't help myself. And
just classic pervy humor.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the Kamehameha, he would have gotten knocked out. So, at that point, he knew he should not hold back, and he went straight in for that cross chop. So, I mean, it was a good match.
It's great to see the students take on the master and be able to beat him, or get close to beat him. Definitely outsmarted him. He had to pull out the big guns at the end, but their strategy made him think on his toes. That's a pun for later on when he literally has to think with his toes. But I definitely love seeing the master and pupil fighting in Dragon Ball or any kind of action shown in manga, period.
Absolutely, I could not have said it better myself. You put it in perfect words there. But moving on to the next fight is Goku versus Namu. And this is one of those fights, again, whenever it was Jackie Chun versus Kuden. I don't know if I mentioned that. I didn't actually mention it, but this is one of those fights where you're rooting for both people to win. I mean, especially, Namu, because he's fighting for his village, and I know it's kind of, cliche stuff of, I live in a desert, and in this, impoverished village, where no rain ever happens and I need to get like food or water or money for my village to survive. And even though it is very cliche, it works so well here because you can feel for Namu, and honestly, he's one of those characters that I wish that would have appeared later on in the series. And Goku versus Namu is just a great fight, and it kind of just showcases that whole trope of like, you don't use the same technique twice, otherwise the opponent will figure out what you're all about. So yeah, that's pretty much my opinion of the fight. What about you?
Yeah, not only does it show that your fighting has to be very attentive, you have to make sure that you're always disguising your moves, not giving away what the next thing is. It also shows in Goku's character development that, I mean, this kid literally learns from one time seeing anything. I mean, we saw it with the Kamehameha. We saw it with, you know, plenty of other things he's done so far, and then in the future with things we see him do. I mean, the dude picks up your move after you do it once. It's crazy. He's just a prodigy, and even though he is an alien later on in the series, we don't know that at this point. I mean, we have a king that is a wolf, so, I mean, it's not weird that he's really a monkey boy. So it's very interesting seeing that he's just capable of these amazing fighting feats.
Yeah, I mean, especially whenever he's using, like, the after image and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, why Goku was so impressed with Majin Buu being able to learn things just right after he saw them. So, I mean, that's kind of getting, like, 10 arcs ahead of ourselves. But I mean, yeah, I enjoyed this fight. Like, even though, like, it was clear that Goku had the clear advantage whenever he wasn't being kind of experimental with his moves, like how he was kind of doing like that whole human top thing. I mean, like, Namu was just like, oh man, he could do that whole tail thing again, I better not get too close to him. So obviously Namu was outmatched in this thing, and also kind of outmatched fighting wise because he kind of made that mistake of using the same move twice, and Goku immediately knew how to counter it. So I mean, I had a lot of fun watching it. What about you?
I also like the reveal that happens after. So you do get to see that Namu's story doesn't end in sadness. He does get water. Then we find out more about, you know, Master Roshi's thoughts on why he is in the tournament facing against his pupils. And it sets up, again, a trope that's going to be played for the rest of the show. And pretty much anybody's life, it's the truth. And Goku really spreads it later on in telling his friends and family the same thing. But it's really originally from Roshi that there's always somebody out there stronger than you. So you always need to be prepared, whether that's with your mind or with your body or with your skills or with your techniques. But you're always needing to be ready to break that limit or shatter that ceiling that's being put above you.
Again, that is very well said, and I could not have said it better myself, because that philosophy is one of the reasons why I absolutely love Dragon Ball, because it is a major theme throughout this whole thing. Like, even like to the Buu arc, and even in Super, even in GT, like, this theme is there. It might not be as prominent later on and in later series, but it's always there. And I love it how it always gets kind of brought back to that, because there always is someone stronger. And I don't know, it really makes me appreciate this arc and the 22nd Budokai, because Roshi has that moment again too with Ten Shinhan. But again, we're getting a little bit too ahead of ourselves there.
That's for something else.
Yeah, but like you were saying, like how Namu was able to get the water for his village, that made me pretty happy. It made me happy as a kid, and it makes me happy now still hearing about that. But it's kind of funny, like how, I don't know, it's like he just hands him a capsule and it's just like, like what happens whenever you get the water in the capsule? Like whenever you throw it, does it just like waterfall out, or is it just like a sphere, like
Yeah, I
a
have
giant
no idea.
sphere.
The well comes back.
Yeah, or
it's just a dry well.
Or is it like a giant sphere, like on Final Fantasy X, like how, like whenever they're playing Blitzball, there's just like a giant sphere of water, and like you just like scoop it up, like as you need it. But I don't know. But I mean,
the final bout.
Move on to the final spectacle of this thing: Goku versus Jackie Chun, and the very first thing I could say about this is everything that anyone, any shonen fan could ever want in a final battle, or any battle in any shonen anime. Like, this encompasses everything that you would want. Good fighting, like every single move being brought out of their arsenal, a reason for them both to fight. Student versus master, like you were saying, like, this matchup is so beautiful.
Plus, this is the fight of 45 downs for Goku. I mean, this is again where I'm talking about the announcer could have called him out so many times. Just starting the countdown a little sooner. He literally could have counted down, what, 4 times? 5 times?
Yeah, I guess, like, the announcer was just so absorbed in this fight that he was just like, I forgot the rules. Again, yes.
He was probably thinking about all the money they were going to make in future tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not that kind. I guess maybe he wasn't thinking that whenever Ozaru was destroying the stadium and everyone was running away. And then Roshi destroys the moon, which pretty much would genocide the entire planet if using logic. But this is Dragon Ball, so you don't need that here.
The moon will be back soon.
It will, and then back again, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I could dissect the Goku versus Roshi fight, but it would just basically be like, oh, and this happened, and Roshi used the Sleepy Boy technique, and Goku, like, used his tail as a helicopter, and that was cool, and this was cool, and Goku turned into an Ozaru, and there was a beam clash, and it was awesome, and Goku and the Muten Roshi just having this amazing fight, and it ending with this whole thing of, like, both of them are, like, they both have reached the 10 count, and the first one to come up is the winner, the one to declare themselves the champion. And I have to say that this scene is way better sold in the anime than it is the manga, and
I will agree.
Yes, like, that's one of the things that the anime does better, at least pacing-wise and build-up-wise. Because, I mean, the manga, it's way better paced in general, but there isn't those moments that allows it to build up like the anime does, and one of those moments is that moment. And also, the one thing that the anime does a little bit better than the manga, well, not even a little bit better, what the anime does that the manga does not have, period, is the amazing soundtrack of this arc.
Oh.
There is a song where it literally talks about the tournament, basically, and it's just, like, talking about everything, like Jackie Chun and all that kind of stuff, and that is amazing. Like, I have to leave that in the description below, like, for everyone to check out if they haven't checked it out. And I'm sure if they've listened to this video, if they're listening right now, they have, but let me get it stuck in your head again, because it's an amazing track.
I mean, plus just the theme for the opening of the Tenkaichi Budokai, like when it's popping on the screen, just like, you know, the 4 kanji strokes, like just that whole, like, then the gong gets hit. I mean, like, that whole little theme intro right there is just fantastic.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
No, I understand not going straight or talking about every little moment in the fight, but I love that Goku loses by not pretty much saying like 1 or 2 syllables. That's what he loses by, and he's just so happy to be where he is, because he's like, I got to fight a bunch of, you know, strong guys. And then at the end of the day, Goku got to do what he wanted, and he got to eat as much food as he wanted. You know, he ate all of the prize money in one meal, so it's overall a very great fight and an amazing way to wrap up the first ever world tournament introduced in this universe. And I like that they didn't give it to Goku, that they gave it to the master, so that later on that torch could really be handed down. And later on isn't even that many seasons away from now.
Yeah, and I feel like that it really does go in the theme of the whole, like, there's always someone stronger out there, because if Goku would have won, he might have gotten that pride that the Muten Roshi was afraid that he or Kuden would get. So that, to me, alone is what makes Jackie Chun winning that much more better.
No, I agree with that.
But yeah, I mean, I would just say we could just do our summaries of just what we thought about this arc, and I'll start off. So the 21st Tournament arc, it's honestly like Dragon Ball at its best, and I know that pretty much like the first like 7 arcs or so, I know the first like 7 arcs or so all the way up until the Saiyan arc, the Saiyan arc, I know that they all pretty much stand the test of time for me. But I love this tournament. Like, this is like one of those tournament arcs where it feels like that everyone is kind of fighting for a reason, that everyone that you care about is fighting for a reason. And I don't know, it's just classic shonen to me. And even though like most of the fights are kind of just there to build up the whole Goku versus Jackie Chun, I really enjoyed the ride, even though like I think that the 22nd and the 23rd tournament have kind of stronger opening rounds, but this tournament right here, it might have the best final round, the best and most meaningful final round out of all of them. So I don't know. I mean, of course, like the whole Goku versus Ten Shinhan is the rivalry between two schools, and Goku versus Piccolo is like him saving the world, but I don't know. I love it so much. I love the whole master versus pupil dynamics, and that to me is like what really makes this arc just really, really strong in my opinion, and definitely worth the watch.
I mean, what it does is it sets up what a tournament should be, how it's presented, what are the rules, what they're doing inside the universe, while also having a simultaneously good building story that deepens the characters, how you feel for them, what you know about them. It also sets it up to where our main characters aren't even winning the tournaments. Like, not even winning the tournaments, and it's still amazing. And every 5 years, people are coming back to watch them, to see what's going to happen next. And I think even though we just had the Tournament of Power, it was not a Tenkaichi Budokai. And that is what Dragon Ball may be missing right now. And hopefully when Dragon Ball Super comes back, if it comes back, because obviously there's no real if it is coming back, maybe we'll get one and we can see, I don't know, a rematch between Goku and Vegeta or something crazy, but taking place in what is a staple of the Dragon Ball franchise.
Absolutely. And what another thing that really strengthens this arc, I mean, everything you just said I totally agree with, but another thing that really strengthens this arc and just all the other tournaments in general is how we get to see friends fight one another. And that's something we never got from the Universe 6 tournament or even the Tournament of Power. Like, we never got to see those dynamics. I mean, sure, we got to see Goku fight everyone before the tournament, but nothing can really kind of capture that whole thing of, like, everyone really training for a tournament instead of, like, this whole, like, oh, I just trained off screen and all that kind of stuff.
And now I'm as strong as I can be.
Yeah, Dragon Ball is an amazing product, and it's something that I will always be able to rewatch over and over and over, and this tournament is just one of those things I can. But, I mean, I'm going to close off right now. Do you have anything else to add before you wrap it up?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of fun. I want to thank you for letting me come on and talk Dragon Ball. I'm always excited to come talk Dragon Ball, whatever it is. And hopefully this gets enough likes and enough commentary on it from you guys at home that Scouter wants to do the 22nd tournament and hopefully bring me back for that, because I would very much enjoy coming back to the channel and talking about the other tournaments that come up later in the future.
And I would as well. And guys, you heard him. let us know what you thought of this podcast down in the comment section below. And also, just let us know what you thought of the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai Arc. Like, what do you think about this? Where do you think it ranks to the 22nd Budokai, 23rd, even the Universe Survival Arc? I mean, just let us know any comments down below that you want us to hear.
Who's your favorite champion of the Tenkaichi Budokai? Let us know down in the comment section below.
Yes, guys, and with that, make sure you go and check out Kihokai's channel again. Again, those links are in the description section. And with that, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Golden Podcast, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Catch you guys next time.